to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
I hope you guys are ready to get motivated tonight. Let me tell you, generalflynn.com/alpha. There's still tickets you can buy if you want to get on the tour, or if you just want to watch the movie. Apple has it. A few places where you can order it streaming. So once again, go to generalflynn.com/alpha. You can put in your email address to get all the information for that. Tonight's show, you guys, I got PRae on. You've probably seen the hashtag Chicago Red. My man Trump. Retruth something she put out there. So if Trump says what this woman has to say is important, y'all better listen. So before we get to that, let's get to one more quick sponsor. And then when I come back, we're going to get into some good conversation.
Are you worried about the effects that higher inflation rates will have on your investments? Are you trying to secure your retirement savings against losses, but you notice that inflation is a hot topic these days? But how dangerous are low inflation rates on your retirement savings? An inflation rate of 2% may not seem like much, but it means that prices will just about quintuple over the lifetime of the average American. And 4% average inflation rate means that something that costs $1 when they're born will cost $23 when they die. That demonstrates the danger of even low inflation rates. So when it comes to gold and inflation rates, many investors want to know whether inflation rates have an effect on gold prices. What history indicates is that over the long term, increased inflation should lead to correspondingly higher gold prices. From September 1971 to August 2020, gold grew 7.5 times as much as inflation. Not only can an investment in physical gold help protect your assets against the damage done by inflation, it can also help grow the value of your retirement portfolio over the long term. If you're looking to protect your retirement assets, why wait until stock markets crash and gold begins to rise in price?
Hey, if you trust Biden, keep your money where it's at. But if you're like, well, then alphalikesgold.com. All the links are down in the description. The links for tonight's guests, you'll see it scrolling across the bottom, but also down in the description. So if you're listening because you're driving, don't worry, you don't got to pull over. I do all the hard work for you. All you got to do is just click it and then follow this amazing woman. You guys, who you really want to hear from tonight, PRae, hashtag Chicago Red. How are you doing, ma'am?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
No, absolutely. Let me ask you this before we get into the juicy stuff. When you showed up and you went to voice your opinion, obviously you mean business. That's why you're there. You're not just going through the motions. But did you think that the man himself would see what you did?
No. Oh my God. Absolutely. This has been wild. I've been doing this for years, and it's just like this was like the big break, So it's a great place to be in. But no, I didn't expect it. But I'm happy that he heard me because people have been telling me for years, PRae, I call Trump my Donnie. They're like, PRae, your Donnie doesn't like you. You're so stupid. Nobody cares. And now people see that he does care. He is listening to me, and he's on his way to Chicago because they said he would never come back.
Man, you want to talk about some vindication? I mean, you don't get better than that. PRae, Donnie don't care about you. Say what? Play the clip, right? It's like, hey, that's something. So kind of set us up. I'll play about the first minute of the clip because when I heard you speaking, I'm like, yeah, exactly. I get people all the time that are like, Alpha, you're Mexican. How can you have that position on immigration, all that? I'm like, first of all, I'm American. Second of all, because I'm tired of my money going everywhere else, and I'm struggling to put food in the refrigerator. So set us up. What motivated you to say, "Hey, I'm doing this," and then I'll play the clip.
So I've been doing Chicago Red, Black Chicago for Trump, just moving this right wing movement here in the city since 2019. I initially was a part of the group, the people who were going to City Hall, but I've never spoken at City Hall because I have a radio show. So I'm like, I don't have to like go and take mic time away from other people when I have a platform. However, some people who were there asked me to come. Actually, they're like, PRae, they're about to give $70 million more. We want you to come and speak on our behalf. Please come. And so I'm like, all right, fine, I'll come. And so that's what led me to speak about my neighbor down the street, LaWanda Jones, because I know them. We're so close as neighbors that we call each other cubs. Okay, we been in my building for 52 years. It will be 52 years this year. I believe they've been in their building for 40 years. So we have generational relationships. It's funny, LaWanda's daughter, her oldest daughter, we would do double dutch competitions, and so the girls from their block would come down to our block, and with their rope and our rope, and we would go 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get you ready, and 4 to go. Let's go. So each girl, jumper would go, and then you get the point. I tell that to say that her daughter was our squirt. Okay, she was the littlest one, so we would make her jump against our smaller jumper as well, the 2 squirts. And so for me, Amarie is the squirt of the squirt. You understand? Because this is Mercedes' little sister. So we take this very seriously because these are our lifelong friends. And if we see somebody like Wanda who was going down the street trying to deal with her grief, the entire neighborhood was sad when her daughter passed away. It was just very infuriating because she could have been in rehab because the city had rehab money, but they decided to give it to the illegals. And we actually found out that it was the money for the rehab because an alderman, Ray Lopez, who I call Ray Ray, as in King Ray, he called my show while I was on the air. And he said to me, I just want you guys to know that this is not taxpayer money. This is opioid settlement money. So when you see addicts outside, know that they could have had help if we didn't give it to the illegals. And so that's what pushed me to go talk at City Hall.
There's so many important topics just off of what you just shared. We talked a little bit about, the show, obviously my audience knows my background. There's just a lot there, and we'll get into that. But before we do, let me bring up the clip that we're talking about because everybody's like, what? Trump did what? So let me play about a minute and a half of this, and then when we come back, we'll get a little bit more into it. So let me bring this on.
We need that on my block. I'm asking y'all to use our tax money for our people. We need it. We got people leaning. We got people rocking. We got overdosing. We got pass out lines. We need the money for us. We are the headquarters of the cartel, and everybody in here knows it. They selling more drugs than the law can allow, and y'all giving money back to them because they traffic those people up here. So we paying them going and coming. Absolutely not.
Joining me now is that Chicago resident, Patricia PRae Easley. PRae, I would say it's self-evident that you need a change in leadership, but Chicago keeps replacing extremist Democrats with, it seems, even more extreme Democrats, and now you're spending money on illegals and not your own citizens. How do you change that?
Well, that's what my organization, Chicago Red, is doing. We are rapidly turning the city of Chicago red. We're telling everyone that the Chicago Blues gave us the blues. And so we want everybody to put on their gym shoes, tie them up real tight because we're running to the right. We're done. We don't want to talk to them anymore. We have choices.
Have you seen this inside the Black community, inside Chicago, men and women?
So, I mean, let me read the part, for those that are like, squinting at their phones. Let me read what Trump put on here. So Trump, obviously, for those of you who don't know, he has Truth Social, and from time to time he retruths somebody, which, I mean, that's a heck of an honor. So Trump says, PRae Easley, I watched your great interview tonight with Pete Hegseth. You are a real leader, far ahead of the times. This is happening all over America. We will put Chicago into the winning mix. We'll be calling you love to all, Donald J. Trump. Now, PRae, listen, all right. I would take a bullet for this man. That's how much I respect him. And I know you get the left that says, "Oh, they worship him." I worship the Almighty. It's the only man I worship. But this man is trying to do right for this country, and they just persecute him and his family. And this man saying, not hey, I like what you're doing. This man says he is going to call you.
Yes.
I mean, how do you feel about that?
I answer every call now. All the spam calls, everybody. Anybody that calls PRae is going to hear her voice because I'm waiting on him. And I've been doing this again since 2019. So I'm not some Johnny come lately. No, we were slapping Black for Trump bumper stickers on Biden 2020 signs back in 2020. So like I said, it's an honor for him to see us because people did not take us seriously at all. And now Chicago's in the winning mix. Our work has given us fruit. We have fruit of our labor.
And and it's important. And I left it up because I want to cover it. And you covered it right now. Is Trump doesn't believe in empty promises. When Trump says he's going to do something, he does it, even in the face of all the opposition that's out there. So Chicago Red that's your guys' thing. That's what your team is working on. And now you have the man saying, we're going to put Chicago back into the winning mix. And I know that when you work like this, it's taxing emotionally, physically. And there's even days where no matter how great our cause is, you still have those days where you're like, man, is it even worth it? Like, I'm tired. Mm-hmm. And here, this just has to be revitalizing to be like, listen, PRae, we're going to put Chicago in the winning mix. I'm going to call you. So obviously, I would assume, I think I'm a pretty smart guy, that you're going to be an integral part of that solution. So you're going to have someone that is probably the most powerful man in the world that wants to hear your take on how do you fix Chicago? Because right now, typically when we hear Chicago, it ain't positive. Highest crime rate here, highest murder rate there, all this, all that. And people forget you're talking about an American city. Well, you're not talking about a city in another country. You're talking about our people. When Trump calls you, what are some of the main ideas you're going to say, Donnie, because you're probably the one that can get away with it, right?
I'm not going to call him Donnie to his face. It's only for the masses. But there are a couple of things I want to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk about is border security. The west side of Chicago is the headquarters of the Mexican drug cartel. 90% of the heroin in this country is trafficked off the west side of Chicago. And that's because all roads in America lead to Chicago. All railroads in America lead to Chicago. This is why we were the distribution center for Sears, right? The Sears Tower, because you can manufacture and distribute anything out of Chicago. You can get to 80% of the country within 8 hours outside of Chicago. And so when you have the cartel here, that turns our neighborhoods into narco towns. As I said in the video, we have people leaning, we have people rocking, we have overdosing. I carry Narcan in my car like I'm Dr. Quinn medicine woman, right? Because you don't know when you got to spit somebody in the nose, right? That's too much. I don't like driving down the street and then pointing out to my daughter people who are having overdoses, or, we see the fire trucks coming, so they must be coming to pick somebody up off the curb. Or you see all these tweakers, doing their thing. We don't deserve that. We pay a lot of money in property taxes, so that's the first thing. The second thing that I want to talk about with him is the fact that we are under a biological warfare issue here in the city. So the city of Chicago decided that they were not going to provide any more school busing for the children. And so it forced parents like me to build these carpools. And what's so egregious about them taking away the buses is that they did it 2 weeks before school started. So they promised the buses when we enrolled, and then they took them away. But that's a whole other issue for another time. That's what fuels my rage towards the mayor. Every time I have to get in my car and drive 3 expressways to take my daughter to school because neighborhood schools aren't able to give her what she's getting over there. I digress again.
And I want to make sure that people understand that statement, because there might be some people that are from some neighborhoods or maybe have some type of, they have a luxury to finances. There's a lot of us, we don't live that way. So when a school all of a sudden changes 2 weeks ahead of time, that's like catastrophic, because you have people that are relying on transportation that if it's not there, you would have had completely different decisions. Well, okay, maybe they'll go to this school instead because I get this one or this carpooling issue, or maybe we're like you're talking about a dramatic, impact to families, and the schools know that.
CPS, the Chicago Public Schools, have $117 million allocated to people transportation. However, they're only providing transportation to special ed students, and homeless students include the illegals. So the illegals get busing, but not our children. Again, that's a whole other issue for another time, because that makes me angry. That gives me gray hair, because I rode those buses. My brother rode those buses. And I know that if the buses didn't exist when we were in school, we wouldn't have gotten the educations that we have. This is a very serious part of Chicago education, because they took the gifted programs out of the neighborhood schools and decided to consolidate them as standalone buildings. And so because CPS took the programs out of the local schools, a bus literally comes with the deal. But anyway, I digress. That's a whole other story. So I've built a carpool with my people, because we live in Austin. Our children go to school in Hyde Park, so Austin is the west side of Chicago. Hyde Park is southeast by the lake, like Obama land. And so I got with my girlfriend. We got our carpooling going. She called me last Monday, and she said, "Girl, I forgot to tell you, my kid's not going to school this week." And I'm like, "What you mean your kid's not going to school this week? Like, you the ride, I'm the ride." She said, "Did you know that they got a measles outbreak in my baby's school?" I said, "What?" She said they sent home a letter on Friday saying that the children have been exposed to measles. They were exposed on April 9th. They sent the letters on April 16th, which is a week later. And I'm telling you, I told them that I don't feel comfortable. So they said, "Okay, my children stay at home until the 30th for a week to see how this is going to even out." So the reason that this matters is because this is in Hyde Park. There is a shelter for the illegals in Hyde Park on 49th Lakeshore Drive, or DeSable Lakeshore Drive. So the children who live in those shelters are now being sprinkled all around Hyde Park high schools and elementary schools, and now measles are there. Now, the person that I pick up, her little person, is a little person, so I physically have to go into the school to get her, to bring her out. So I went into the school last Friday, to sign her out. And then she's there with her little friends. I thought they were so cute, because they were like these little black girls, these little white girls, and they were, little mamas, so they're all like trying to outsass one another. I loved it. I digress. So before they left, I told them, "All right, ladies, group hug, time to go." And so they did their little group hug, and then they left. And now I know that they could have been spreading measles amongst each other. I went into that school, which means that I was exposed to measles. I had this little girl in my car before I knew anything about the measles, so she could have been bringing measles into my car, which then exposes my entire family. All of those families who have children in the Chicago Public Schools, everybody is now compromised by these people. Nobody is talking about that. So we need federal help on that level. So that's the second thing that I was talking about: the border, the health crisis, and the fact that now Mayorkas, who is the DHS secretary, they're pushing for illegals to get real IDs. Here in the the state of Illinois, if you get an ID card, the system automatically registers you to vote. So now we are pushing for illegals to register to vote through our real ID system. What the world is that? You understand, what is going on here? On top of the fact that we already know that the mail has been compromised, so much so that a sitting alderman wrote a resolution to do, a study on how they're beating up mail carriers here in the city and taking their keys. So the mail system has been compromised. So how are we sending ballots? We need federal help. The Democrats are really attacking Black people in Chicago very similarly to what they did during the Civil War, which is why they had to send the Union here to help squash the Confederacy in the Chicago Democratic Party. We need the same help in 2024.
Now, obviously you're very well versed in this. You have done your homework on this. Is the community as a whole aware of all these problems like you are, or are you still trying to bring this awareness to the community?
I think both. The people may not know the nitty-gritty like I do, but they definitely see that the Chicago Teachers Union is saying that they're going to go on strike if the city of Chicago does not give $2,000 to each illegal in school.
This is crazy.
They want to give them $2,000. Do you know what I could do with $2,000 with my CPS student? You know, that's what makes us angry. Our people are now being put out of their homes onto the street because the illegals are coming with $15,000 in cash, a security deposit with 3 months of rent, plus all their utilities and their water bills being paid. So if you have a situation with Ashley and her kids, and Ashley paying every month on the 7th instead of the 1st, Ashley now has to leave because those illegals are going to get that spot. So they're trying to push the illegals out of the shelter so that our people can go into those shelters, and the illegals are going to go into our homes. Our people can see that. So, you know, these are lived experiences. They don't have to get into the policy. They don't have to get into the statistics. I'm an extroverted nerd. So I'm always going to always going to nerd out. But they can see it. We're not dumb. We're Chicago Public School graduates, and we were there when they were actually teaching. We know when a scam is being ran on us.
I mean, one, that's disgusting that you're going to push Americans into shelters to replace them with people that are here by breaking the law. And their presence is breaking the law, and you're paying them for it, and you're incentivizing them for it. I mean, that's wild. Is there anybody in your guys' local government that, you know, feels the way you guys do, or is the local government bought off on this?
I think that there are, which is, like I said, Ray Lopez definitely, you know, gives us the nitty-gritty of what's happening in City Hall. But I think that the speech that I gave last week really put a fire under a lot of the aldermen, because a lot of them voted against giving the money. And these are aldermen who are typically like rubber stamp mayoral people, right? But this time they were like, no, because they know that we need rehab. Like, if you guys have made us a sanctuary city, and the sanctuary city ordinance has acted as a magnet to draw the cartels here because of the transportation, high black male unemployment, and the fact that we're a sanctuary city, and now we have all these people out here with addiction problems, they know we need help because they have those people in their families. You know, this again is not some pie in the sky, you know, we're just talking about idealism. No, this is real life in the city of Chicago, the county of Cook. And this is hard for us. Every time it seems like we're getting over a hump, they throw something else at us to throw us back down. How much more can we take? We're not taking it anymore, and that's why we're moving on.
And I think that temperature represents a large part of this country right now. You know, we've seen, you know, Democrats being interviewed in New York on their message to Biden, and that was I was very happy to hear what I heard with that. But you know, when you bring up sanctuary cities, people need to understand, you know, when the agency that I was working for, that city was one of the cities that bought off on sanctuary city. That is a calling card for the cartels. Like, people may think, oh, you know, here's the pretty picture they paint, but they don't understand when you say sanctuary city, cartels know, oh, we can have our people operate there without fear of deportation. We can get away with human trafficking. It's an invitation for very bad crimes.
Yes. And Chicago knows that. So I'll give you another thing. So on my show, Black Excellence Hour, I actually came up with the idea to do the referendum for Sanctuary City. And I said, since they don't want to get rid of it, what we're going to do is a petition campaign. Everybody get your pens out. We're just going to make this a referendum on the ballot. We'll force it. So Ray Lopez, my guy, he said, well, you know what, kid? We don't have to do that. We'll just bring it up on the floor. So I laughed and said, well, you also call it the PRae ordinance because it's my idea. I felt that to say that the city council voted against it and the mayor was the deciding vote. So they even took the ability for us to even talk about sanctuary cities on the ballot away from us. So that means that the cartel has more power in the city council than we do as voters and taxpayers. How much more can the people take? You know, it's like I said, every day it's getting worse and worse. And so now we're going to recall the mayor.
Well, yes, that's a phenomenal way to start addressing that issue. And people need to understand there are a lot of Americans that they've put up with a lot of BS for a very long time because they're relying on the system to fix itself. And we're seeing that it just ain't happening. It's like the more we let our virtues kind of hold us in place, the more, like you said, the more they beat you up with, and another hurdle and another hurdle. And now it's the point where people are saying, like, look, I can't feed my family, I can't house my family. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired, and I'm going to do something about it. And an image that I want to bring up on the screen and show you right now is, let me bring it up so people can see it right here. So if you don't got great vision, let me tell you what it says right here. This comes from the account News Toter, April 26th. It says students, faculty, and alum urge Morehouse to rescind Biden invite. And you see a bunch of students standing and sitting in pouring rain. I mean, it looks like a movie set, like where they got the water hose up there. Like, that's how heavy the rain is, just to rescind an invitation of Biden. The one reason I wanted to show this picture is because if they have this commitment to rescinding an invitation, nobody can convince me that there is anything that is going to stop the men and women in this photo from going to vote.
Exactly.
So let me give this to you. Hopefully this will be encouraging. What have you seen from the community out here in terms of the talk about who's going to show up to vote?
So I've been talking a lot with the young people who I affectionately call the babies. And the babies want to vote for Trump. So you got to remember, like, they are in their 20s. So it's 2024. They were born during the September 11th time, right? And then they, got to go through the whole first black president shebang. They watched their neighborhoods be demolished. They watched their grandmothers lose their homes. They watched their people move out of their cities. Nobody wants to move from Chicago to Iowa, okay? Nobody. However, this is what's been happening for, almost 2 generations now, or for a generation. So they've seen the decline. But then when my Donnie got in office, what they say is, we had money when it was Trump. Trump sent out the stimmies. Okay, the stimulus, that's what they call the stimulus payments, the stimmies. They're like, he sent out some stimmies, and Biden didn't give us nothing. He old. He don't know what he's talking about. He make us look weak. He's tripping. He's going to sleep. No, man, we want Trump back. We going to get Trump back in office. I mean, I was just talking to a guy the other day. I mean, this guy had tattoos on his face, everything, right? And I'm like, hey, brother, you going to vote? Hell yeah, I'm voting. What you mean? And I'm going to get Trump. Matter of fact, me and all my guys going to vote. I'll make sure everybody votes, because hell no, we can't take this. These people taking everything from us. They everywhere. They in the street. They selling stuff. They got the kids outside. This is somebody that's like 21 years old who's fed up. Right now, America's biggest female rapper is a woman from St. Louis named Sexy Red. And Sexy Red, who is the leader of the babies, she said too, she's voting for Trump. She actually has this thing when she's on tour now, and she has this big hat, and it says "Make America Sexy Again," but it's a magic hat, right? So she's subconsciously talking to her listeners or talking to her followers, telling them to support Donald Trump, which is why they went to try to get Glorilla. But even Glorilla said, they said, do you support the president? She said, I love everybody, but at the end of the day has to end. And that was her way of saying, this is over. So the young people don't support Jim Crow, on top of the fact that they're all pissed off about Palestine, on top of the fact, they have no reason to vote for him. And the people that they go to try to convince us to listen to, those blue checkmark people, we know that they're not our neighbors. They don't live with us. I mean, think about Whoopi Goldberg, who's on The View, and she's supposed to be the black voice, and she's someone I love. When I was a little girl, my cousin and I watched The Color Purple every single day when we were 4 years old. I don't know why that was our favorite movie, but it was. I mean, we would call it Drink Your Bath Water. That was what, because in the movie, he said, Suge, you so fine, I'll drink your bath water. So that's what we called it. We watched Drink Your Bath Water every day. I say that to say she was rich and famous when I was born. Okay, so she has never lived my experience. She is not qualified to speak on my behalf, and I think that we're starting to see that. You have these people who tell you how you're supposed to vote, what you're supposed to think, how do you prove your blackness, and all this kind of stuff. But these are not people with us at the grocery store. These are not the people who are stepping over the illegals. These are not the people who are driving their kids to school every day because they took the transportation money and gave it to the illegals. These are not the people who are explaining to their kids drugs are bad because you're watching people overdose and we don't have rehab. They're not qualified. That's the issue. We have disqualified this blue check mark group of people, and it's red now. The young people don't want to hear it anymore, and we don't either.
You know, that kind of movement and shift is so dangerous for our tyrannical government, because it's one of the reasons they want to bring in all these illegals, because it's like, well, we can't control these people anymore. Let's replace them with someone that, you know, that's not going to bite the hand that feeds them, so to speak. And you see this happening in every single state in this country. It's so someone can fact check me on this one, but I believe it was in Seattle, Washington. There's these homes that are for homeless families, like an entire family that got homeless, and it's been around. And there's one family that's been living in this particular home for, I think, about 2 years or so, and they got a couple kids on them, and everything's been fine. They've been doing, you know, keep finding work, like they've been checking all the boxes of what they need to do to stay in that facility, or I hate calling it a facility because it's a home. But all of a sudden they got news that they had to leave. They were going to have to find somewhere else to go. And so the father's just like, well, hey, look, we've been doing the work. We've been filling out the forms. We've been doing everything we need. What come to find out, he's being replaced for illegals that are not going to be housed there because the government is willing to pay more money than what they were getting to take care of an American family. So it's just literally, you're going to kick out Americans, just like what you're talking about in Chicago. You're going to kick out Americans to put in people that are criminals just to make money. I mean, it's insane. The other thing I wanted to touch on while we still have some time, like I said, I come from a law enforcement background. And if you watch movies, if you watch mainstream media, all I hear is the people of Chicago hate the cops and the cops hate the people of Chicago. What's the real story?
We love the Chicago Police Department. Shout out to the 15th District, the best police district ever. So when they talk about people in Chicago hating the police, I'm sure you've seen the Chicago street parties, right? And you see the girls, what are the girls doing? Twerking on top of the police car. So if we hated the police, how did the girls climb on top of the cars and dance? Because the police are out there at the parties too. We love them. These are our neighbors. These are people who went to grammar school with us. Now, I'll say we love the police, but we hate 12. 12, those are the rogue officers. Those are the jump out boys. Those are the people that we have to pay out settlements for. But the average, everyday, regular, smegular blue shirt, we love those people. In my community, our police district, they do cotillions and botillions for the kids. They have after-school programs. They take them out of town. They do tutoring. We love these people. We've never rioted in my community in my lifetime against the Chicago Police Department, and we're happy when they show up. You know, I remember, and this is like a super hood story, but when I was a little girl, I'm in my family's building now, but my grandmother, so my parents worked during the day, my grandmother would watch my cousin and I. We're 6 weeks apart. So she had a rule that we couldn't ride our bikes all the way to the end of the block. We were supposed to stop halfway, turn around, and come back. So on this block, it's all the grandmothers own the building. So they all lived on the second floor, and then they would rent out their first floor. And so one particular day, my cousin said, come on, we are riding to the end of the block today. And I'm like, no, we can't ride to the end of the block. We're going to get a whooping. He's like, man, forget her. She's asleep. Come on. So we're riding our bikes to the end of the block. And we get down there, and the police have some guys kind of hemmed up. You know, they were down there shooting dice. So the police took their money, and they gave it to us. So it's me, my cousin, two other boys. We split the money up, and so we get back on our bikes, and we're riding back down the street. Well, I guess one of the grandmothers saw us down there talking to the police, so they called my grandmother and told her, hey, you need to come outside. Your kids are outside with these police officers. So we get down the street. She's like, did not tell you to don't go to the end of the block. Bring your bikes in. I'm about to whoop y'all. And I'm like, no! So I'm like, we got some money. And she's like, where did you get that money from? And I'm like, the police gave it to us. She's like, oh, I'm going to give it to you worse because now you lying. So as we're explaining this to her, the two boys down the street are walking down the street with their grandfather. You know, people like to lie and say we don't have fathers. We do have fathers and grandfathers. We grew up around very strong black men, but I digress. It's another show. So Mr. Weathersby is walking down the street with his grandchildren, and they're telling the same thing. So my grandmother says, "Hey there, Weathersby." She said, "Hey there. My kids said that they were with your kids, and the police gave them some money." She said, "Well, my kids said the same thing." So Mr. Weathersby, he goes down the street, he talks to the guys. The guys are like, "No, just let the kids keep the money. It's okay." And so I tell people that I bought my first pair of Nikes with some money that the Chicago Police Department gave to me, right? So I never had anything against them. And even though that what they did was technically illegal, that's community policing. You see what I'm saying? So, like, that's how we function in my neighborhood. We are we're Chicago's largest community, the Austin community. We're America's largest small town. All of our people are from Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri. So we're very, very southern. And we respect our officers. We don't have a problem. When we call 911, we want the Chicago Police Department to show up with their guns. We don't want a social worker. If we knew how to talk people down, we have sweet southern tongues. We know how to talk people down. But if you can't be talked down, it's time to call the white man. Let him come and deal with you, because that's why we pay taxes. So please get that out of your minds that we have some big issue with the Chicago Police Department. We don't. It's only the liberal liars who are pushing that, and they need that narrative to stay relevant because they don't have anything else to talk about.
And that is why people need to hear from people that actually live in these communities like you, so they can hear the truth about what's going on, because there can be someone that probably disagrees with a lot of the stuff we talked about, but they're hearing you share firsthand information of your experience with law enforcement. And if people are being honest with themselves, then you have to sit back and look and be like, well, it's not what the media has been telling me. So maybe if they're lying about this, what else are they lying about? And
they're lying about everything with us. I mean, when I say everything. Again, these people don't know us. I've been in this community my entire life. My parents met in the 7th grade in 1969. When they graduated from college, they moved back to our neighborhood. They said, we're not moving to the suburbs. White ice is not colder. White ice is not wetter. I mean, white water is not wetter. White ice is not colder. We're moving back to our neighborhood. So I grew up in a community with both of my grandmothers, both of their sisters, so all my aunties, uncles, first cousins, everybody. This is my village. This is what I know. I choose to live here because I love it here. The people who live here want to live here. We are a middle-class community that is dealing with an unchecked criminal element, okay? We're not poor. We're not suffering. Bullets aren't raining from the sky. We're not begging. All we're asking is to be left alone by these liberal liars. And they keep pushing this message of us being absolutely nothing because this is how they get funding from their funders. I work in corporate America. I'm not going to say where I work, but I work in corporate America. And I was in a meeting with one of my managers, and it's like a team meeting. So he's telling the group, I'm involved with the Buy the Hand Club. This is like a local not-for-profit. And they built this school over there, and the people over there, they don't have anything, and it's a food desert, and we put an outdoor market there because these people are so terrible. Their children need help. It's going on and on and on. So I raised my hand. I said, that's enough. He said, what do you mean? I said, that's my neighborhood. With the spot you're talking about, I live 6 blocks from that spot, and I'm sitting in this meeting with you all making the same check. So I want you to stop talking about me and my neighbors right now. Next point of order. So when it was over, he's like, oh, my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, no. You don't know any better. The people who want you to fund that spot have to tell you that we're low and pathetic in order to speak to the white guilt that you're trying to buy your way out of. You understand? We don't need you to do that. Do I look like I'm missing meals? Do you think because you put your outdoor farmers market that can't function in the cold, do you think that because you did that, now we're eating? No, we've always been eating. We've never missed a meal. Nobody's hungry in my neighborhood. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, nobody's hungry. Nobody is pathetic. Nobody is sitting around with big, flies on their faces, send us 30 cents a day. No, I'm an 8th generation American. I know how to feed myself in my country, but this is how the liberal liars keep themselves relevant. They love to corporatize our trauma in order to help themselves. That's what the entire BLM movement was about.
Wow. one, more people need to be having you on,
Oh,
sharing
thank
this
you.
message, because it's what I've been trying to get people to understand, for them to hear it straight from your mouth, from someone who lives there. The value of that information is so important, because, you know, I can speak on the information I've heard from people that I've done shows with and network from other states. But at the end of the day, I'm in Southern California. Like, I know firsthand what's going on in Southern California. And so when I see the media pointing out this and this, I'm like, no, that's not going on. When they're saying, I'm like, that's not going on. Or they'll highlight, some of the issues with like downtown Hollywood or something in like Orange County. And I'm like, yeah, I've worked out there. It's isolated to right there. But then all of a sudden you see these grant programs coming out and you're like, oh, now I get it. You had to inflate the issue to get this money to come in that you're never going to use for the issue anyways. You're still dealing with these
Exactly.
problems in that area, but the politicians are lining their pockets. As we wrap this up, two things I want to do is, can you recap what is Chicago Red that you have? What is the mission, and how do people learn more about it? And then let my audience know, where do they find you and how can they support you?
Okay, so we are Chicago Red. The mission of the organization is to liberate Chicago from the liberal failures that are bankrupting our city and leaving Americans behind. You can check out our website, chicagored.org, and look at our pictures, some of our past events. My favorite part of the website is the FaceTime with an elected official. We gave people an iPad and told them, look at this camera and act like you're FaceTiming an elected official. So you can actually hear their opinions. We have a weekly meeting here on the West Side where patriots can come together. We're rolling out a lot of political action items now. It's one thing, again, just to run your mouth, but you got to have something to show. So this week we are going to deputize our people so that they can be legally bound to register people to vote. Here in Illinois, you have to be a deputy registrar to register people for some reason, I guess for legal purposes. So we're going to get all of our people deputized so that we can actually do our voter registration, because now we're fighting with all the illegals who are about to become registered voters with their IDs. The goal is to not only have the action items, but it's about self-esteem. Everything with our movement is rooted in self-esteem, because when you're trying to get people to change politically, you don't do that by pointing out their deficiencies. Typically, when conservatives come talk to Black people, if you don't have fathers, your neighborhoods are failing, you're so poor, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, everybody knows what's wrong with them when they put their feet on the floor every day. It's not my job to point that out to you. My job is to tell you what's good about yourself so that you can expound upon that. So with our organization, we want people to be confident in knowing that it's okay to move on. You have good people on the other side waiting for you. People think because they try to socially cancel you or isolate you, you're going to do what they say, but there are 8 billion people on the planet, and people really overvalue their presence in the lives of others. So we want to show people there are people out here. We do fun stuff. We have a weekly meet and greet at Trump Tower at Rebar. If you're here in Chicago, come hang out with us. But to that, also come to the Thursday meeting so that you can do the work. We're at 5834 West Augusta, 60651 in the Austin community. Pull up anybody. We say white folks can come too, as long as you're not voting blue. So yes, pull up. We have a good time. We're just Southern people, so we feed you, and we're on the business of the business. You can follow me on Twitter at PRaeBEH, as in Black Excellence Hour, at PRaeBEH. My Twitter page is wild. Because, I'm doing all this conservative stuff, but then I'm also fighting liberal Black Twitter, and I'm slaughtering these people every day. Some people are like, I don't know how you do it, P. Ray. I'm like, I find joy in doing this every day. I'm like, shut up, you liberal liar. Because there's no way for them to invalidate me. I live on the west side of Chicago. I went to Hampton University. I'm an HBCU grad. I'm in a Greek organization. Shout out to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I work in corporate. I have an international school. I've done things. So there's no way that people can say that I'm not who I say I am or anything like that, because the people know me. So join the movement. See what we're on. Just know that we are very authentic. What we're doing in Chicago Red is a Black woman-led organization, or Black women. There's myself and other Black women, because typically when they talk about the Black conservative movement, and it's just politically they try to censor that in Black men, but we're the ones taking care of the households. We're the ones driving the kids to school. We're the ones taking them to go get measles boosters and all that good stuff, right? So we want to speak to that motherhood, and it's working really well.
Well, I will just add that PRae, it's been an absolute honor to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you in the future. Also, the conservative women in this movement have really kept the conservative movement alive. Men, we got to catch up. Like, we're the men of this country. We got to catch up. You guys, all the links to what PRae was just talking about are down in the description. Make sure you go click on them and support them. And if you were ever questioning, do I want to go to that school district meeting? Do I want to go to that county board meeting? Go, stand your ground, voice your opinion. Why? Because Donnie's listening, y'all. and you might just be like PRae, where he retruths you and says, hey, I'm going to be reaching out. And that shows you that the man is in touch with the different communities in this country. And that's what we need. You guys, we ran this show commercial free to the end. So do me a favor, stick around, support the sponsors that support this show. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern. God bless and Semper Fi, everybody.
When I started MyPillow, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Well, since then, with the help of my dedicated employees, we now have hundreds of products, some you might not even know about. To get the word out, we're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. And for the first time ever, our 6-pack towel sets, you guessed it, just $25. Our brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And I've never done this before. Premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, even king size for only $25. And there's so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code for our $25 extravaganza. Order $75 and over. Your entire order ships absolutely free.